It's Transformers96 here with another video review. This time we have the Star Wars from The Force Awakens First Order Stormtroopers from Hot Toys. So these were figures that I've been really looking forward to. Obviously, Hot Toys really going all out on the troopers, and I definitely wanted to get a few, not all, but I definitely wanted to get some. And I started off with this 2-pack, which comes with the Heavy Gunner as well as the regular First Order Stormtroopers. Overall, the box design, really don't like. I think it's an extremely plain box design. It is in line with their original trilogy boxes, but I just don't like them in general. I believe that it looks very similar to Sideshow's boxes, so I don't know if it was intentional to kind of keep it in the same theme as the Sideshow boxes. However, I just don't like it. I think that it's just super plain and really not great for a Hot Toys quality box. But of course, the box isn't a big deal. So let's get the figures out and see how they are. Here we have the Stormtroopers out of the package, but before we go into the figures, let's talk about their accessories. Alright, considering this is the 2-pack, you do get a large amount of hands. You're going to get 2 sets of fists, 2 sets of relaxed palms, 2 sets of trigger finger hands. You're going to get 2 left hands that are kind of open, meant for kind of signaling, I guess, or just in a kind of dynamic pose. And then you're also going to get 1 right hand that's meant specifically for holding the Mega Blaster, which it's basically the same as the trigger finger hands, although the trigger is a little bit tighter. And the actual hole where the peg goes in is off to one side, so it allows you to still have, because the grip on the Mega Blaster is quite surrounded by plastic and everything, so this way the arm can angle in further where he can hold it actually more naturally. They do have trouble holding that Mega Blaster in general though, so it doesn't help too much, but it is nice that they attempted to do something to help that, so I was pretty impressed with that. Comes with basically all the sets of hands that I could have wanted. Really, the only thing I would have liked is a right hand to accompany this open hand, because it kind of sucks if you want the open hand. If you want him to have an open hand, it has to be on his left hand. So it would have been nice just to have one for the right hand, for more options of posing. But you really get all the hands that you really need with this set. Alright, as far as weapons go, aside from the Mega Blaster, you're going to get 2 pistols as well as 1 rifle. So, very nice, just going over the actual detail on the pistols themselves. Looking very good. Of course, high detail. I like that it's almost like little screw ports right there, even though those aren't really screw areas, but it kind of looks like that. You have a nice mixture of black, white with some very slight silver highlighting on one side, and you do have a red dial just kind of up there on the top. The blaster carries the same level of detail, of course. Nothing too fantastic to talk about here. Let's see if we can focus on it. There we go. As you can see, very nice. It does have this little front area that can come down. This is a bit annoying when you actually have them posed with holding it with 2 hands, because sometimes you can get their arms close enough together to actually hold it with 2 hands. However, their hands are kind of wanting to go back into a wider position, and therefore it starts to pull on this little piece sometimes. So you really do have to watch out for it, so that can be annoying. The guns that they come with are very nice. The only problem I have is I think that the Heavy Gunner Stormtrooper should definitely come with a rifle as well. We only get 1 rifle with this set, which really sucks, because I've taken the vest off of the Heavy Gunner and I don't display him with that big gun. I'd much rather prefer to just have them both holding the regular blaster. But unfortunately I only get 1 with this set. However, the Riot Control Trooper that comes with Finn, which is coming out in June, that comes with another rifle, which I won't have the Riot Control Trooper holding the rifle anyway, so I will be able to give that rifle to the Heavy Gunner, but it is a shame that this set doesn't provide you with 2 rifles. I think that's pretty necessary that we don't have, unfortunately. These guns can be attached to the thighs of the Stormtroopers really easily. It is just on a magnet, which is really nice. Both the pistol and the rifle can be held on via a magnet, which is really nice. Goes on pretty easily. Obviously, when you're posing and messing around, they can have the tendency to kind of get angled like that, so you might want to just straighten them out. But other than that, it's a nice way to do it. It's much better than actually having like a peg or anything like that. So I am happy with how they have the guns attached to the Stormtroopers. You also get a heavy gunner vest, which is kind of neat. It's kind of like the ammo pack. We see, quite a few troopers in the movie actually have one of these. So it is something that is very noticeable throughout the film, which is good. And it is nice that we do have a way to actually have one of these guys be a little bit different if you don't want two of the same. However, I like just two regular ones. If I had like a whole army of these guys, of course I'd have one be a heavy gunner. But at the moment I only have two stormtroopers, so I'd prefer just to keep them both as regular troopers instead of specific areas, I guess. So I do display the one that's supposed to be a heavy gunner as just a regular stormtrooper. But this goes on very easily. I didn't have to do anything special to get it off. It's on these simple clips that clip into little spaces like right here. So, you might need a little needle nose pliers or what is it, like tweezers to kind of be able to actually clamp those two areas to be able to remove it. But it comes off pretty easily, and this is well designed. It looks very nice, and I am again happy that it is pretty easily removable. With this set, or just with the Heavy Gunner figure, you will get the Mega Blaster, basically. This is a very cool accessory. We do see it used a few times in the film. When Finn and Poe are trying to escape via TIE Fighter, we do see a couple of them actually set up these on the ground and start shooting, as well as we do actually see one of them hold it up and use it to blow up a TIE Fighter, sorry, an X-Wing. So these do get screen time, which is nice, something that I was a little bit worried about going in, so it is good that they get screen time. The gun itself is designed really nicely. It definitely feels quite heavy too, and it's quite large, and it looks very good. Carries the same type of detail as the smaller weapons with black and white highlights. Maybe even a little, yeah, there's a few little silver highlights, but very light. So mainly just black and white color scheme. I do like the holes, and you can see through them, obviously, as you can see through the entire gun, which is cool. The points of kind of mobility on this is that it does have a hinge right here. I don't know what this is, if this is some sort of scope or something, I don't know. I did have for a while one of the stormtroopers pose holding this weapon, holding this little handle here, and it looked pretty good, so I'm not quite sure what this is actually supposed to be, but it does work out quite nice if you just kind of want them to hold it by their side. There is a hinge at two parts on the little area down here, so that you can hinge this out. When moving this bottom hinge, I recommend holding the bottom here. Don't try to pull it like this. You'll definitely break it, I would think. The hinges are very tight, so I'd be wary of that. And then there is a hinge here. As you can see, it does work. So if you move one, the other one moves out just as much, which is nice, so that you can get them angled really properly. And you can position it to have it standing up like this, which is really cool. I wish there was a way to extend it, even though that wouldn't necessarily be movie accurate. Considering these guys don't have very good articulation, you can't get them kneeling or anything like that, so you really can't have them holding the gun and firing it like this. You'll either have to have some sort of display where you can prop this up on like a little like rock formation or something that you make or something like that, or you're just going to have them hold it, and based on their articulation and how big and clunky this kind of gun is, they don't hold it very well either. So it's a really nice accessory. I do like the fact that it does have hinges and swivels and things like that to actually kind of customize the way you have it positioned. However, just because it's so low, you really can't do a whole lot of it. You can't use it a whole lot, considering these stormtroopers have limited articulation. So it's a really nice gun. It's one that I'm not going to be using, I don't think. Maybe the the snow troopers will be able to use it a lot better. I don't have that figure yet, and I don't even know if I'm going to get the snowtroopers actually, but there's no review of it, of the snowtroopers yet, so I will definitely want to watch some reviews before I decide, and it would be great if the snowtroopers have articulation enough to actually kneel on the ground and to be able to use this weapon. That would look really cool actually, so we'll have to see. Maybe the snowtroopers will have good enough range of motion to actually use this product. Sorry about that, my camera ran out of space, but like I said, hopefully the snowtroopers will have enough articulation to be able to use this properly, but at the moment the stormtroopers do not, unfortunately. Alright, you'll get two identical bases with the Stormtrooper set as well. Both of them are really nice. I actually really like the design of the bases for The Force Awakens. I think they're quite cool, and definitely better than the kind of rectangles that they've been doing for Guardians of the Galaxy, the original trilogy, as well as Age of Ultron. I'm not a big fan of those like rectangle things. These are really nice. They're kind of in a hexagon formation, and then they have the symbol of whatever figure that you buy. This, of course, they are the First Order. Order, so you're going to have the First Order symbol on the top there, but with like Rey and Finn, you'll get the resistance symbol, which is really cool. So I like that idea a lot. Plus, I just like the way they've sculpted the plastic on these bases as well. The bottom section is a really nice kind of flat black, and then the nameplates are printed onto the base themselves. They're not actually plates that are on the base. And then for the top section, there is a separate piece on top that has the symbol, and the symbol is in a really nice high gloss. I think it looks wonderful. It's very reflectant. As you can see the cradle in the reflection of the base, which is really cool. So I am really happy with this base design. I think it looks wonderful, and I hope that they do continue to do this outside of Star Wars, and hopefully we'll get some of these with Marvel too, because I like this design, just to have this kind of the symbol of the movie in a high gloss, really nice kind of elegant look, and to have them in a hexagon shape, I think is the perfect shape. It's much better than the oval and rectangle which they have been using up to this point. The cradles themselves look really nice. I like the design. It looks kind of modern and kind of like almost techno type of look, which is kind of odd just because it's, you know, a pretty simple symbol there, but it's a lot better than just a straight up rectangle for the cradle. So I am happy with these bases a lot, and I am excited that we do have a nice really good way to display all the Star Wars figures together and have them look unified, which is good. So there's obviously no face sculpt, it's just a helmet, so I really can't talk about facial likeness or anything like that, but let's just go over the costume. So as a whole, the costume is really nice. I think that it is the strongest part of this figure, is just the overall costume looking wise. I have to say, functional, it's functional in some places, in others it does heavily limit articulation. However, the general look of it is really good. It's really pristine, which I like a lot. They didn't go with any battle damage or weathering at all, which is good. Obviously in the movie they are very pristine and shiny, really in every shot. There isn't a single one that's like battle damage, other than just from the actual actors running around on like Jakku, where it would be a desert type of planet, which might, you know, scruff up the costume a bit, but it's really not visible in the movie. So I am happy that they went with a really nice pristine and shiny look. Obviously what they should have done, so that's really good. So the helmet, as you can see, I'm just going to talk about one of these guys because they're of course the exact same figure, just the one comes with slightly different accessories. So the helmet of the Stormtrooper looks really good. I like it a lot. I like the black on the eyes there, although it is prone to smudging. I can't see if you can tell that on the camera here, but just from holding the head when I moved it, I can see like my thumb marks and stuff. So it is prone to smudging, and obviously just slightly rubbing that off will clear it up, which is good. I really do like the way that they've rounded the helmet there. As you can see, there is just like a zipper that the whole suit goes over. The zipper is actually coming down a bit. I wonder if that's happening on my other Stormtrooper. The other one looks like it's zipped up higher, so I don't know why, but this Stormtrooper is his zipper is coming undone slightly at the back of the neck there, but really nice looking armor in general. Alright, just give you a quick look at the armor. As you can see, very nice. Now, just to, you know, there's not a whole lot to talk about. We all know what a Stormtrooper armor looks like, so just in general, it looks really good. And talking about some specific things that I want to speak about on the costume, he does have a rubber undersuit. This does hinder articulation quite a lot in the elbows, knees, and the thighs. The thigh area is not rubber, it is actually just a cloth, but the padding underneath it is quite strong, which does hinder the articulation. So just to show you that. One thing I will say that you might want to be careful about, or just or watch out for, is the way how far up these arm pieces go on the bicep armor. As you can see, it's perfect on this side. It looks wonderful. I absolutely love it. On this side, it's a little bunched up there right before the armor comes up, and it looks like this armor is slightly lower than it is on this side. Same thing on this figure. It bunches up a lot right there. Now, this is quite high, but it does bunch up quite a lot, which does make it slightly more hindered when putting his arm down compared to this side, which can go down further since it doesn't have any of that rubber bunched up before the armor. So that is something just to look out for. And it's really, I mean, I would imagine there's a way to fix it, but man, you'd have to like take this suit off and the armor off and stretch out the suit, I would imagine, to be able to push the armor piece up even further. So it would be quite hard, I would think, to actually fix that, but I'm sure there is a way to fix it. Some of the armor pieces, like the knees and this crotch area, are velcroed on. So it feels like these are kind of flimsy. It worried me for a while, but until I found out that these were actually velcroed on, which is quite nice. So I was worried the glue was just really flimsy, but no, it is Velcro. And watch out for the crotch piece, like on this side. On this figure, I mean, it's kind of swaying to one side, so just, adjust it if need be. Based on posing the thighs, you can kind of twist that crotch guard there to one side, which will make it look pretty weird. But the costume in general is really good, and I definitely like it. And then the rubber pieces, like, he doesn't have a full rubber costume. What it is it's a cloth, and then over the joints on the elbows, shoulders, and knees, it is rubber. So like underneath the armor where you can't see it. Oh man, that wrist is on pretty tight there. There we go. Alright, as you can see, so the rubber pieces is just on the visible parts. So underneath the actual armor parts, it is just a cloth there. Going over articulation now, let me just put this arm back. So the articulation, I was disappointed to find out when this originally came out that the articulation was quite hindered. Getting it in person, it was a little bit more hindered than I was expecting, I would say, around the elbows in particular. But since then, just working with the armor a bit, I have found that the articulation isn't that bad. In a lot of ways, at least. So let's first go over it. The head articulation is quite good. Alright, you can look up very far, which is nice. You can look down quite far. You can also adjust the armor, so if you want his head back a bit, you can do that. If you want it leaned forward, have more of a FN2187, Finn type of look, where he's kind of has no neck, you can do that, which is kind of nice, because there are certain stormtroopers that just have no neck, and then some that do throughout the movie. It's just based on the height of the person in the costume, I would imagine. The shoulder articulation is actually pretty decent. I was pretty surprised by this. The armor shoulder pads are just on a very slight rubber piece, so they can be fully manipulated. And what's nice is the piece that connects them to the body isn't strong enough, where if you have him posed with his arm up for a long time, once you bring his arm down, this won't stay up, it will fall down. I've had both of these guys pose for days now in a pose where they have, you saw it earlier in this video, where they had their fists up in the air like they just were saluting after Hux's speech. And just today, doing this review, I lowered their arms and the shoulder pads have come down no problem, and they're completely flush with the arm, which is nice. But the shoulders themselves have good articulation, actually. Can go up quite far forward and backward, which is really nice. And because the suit is quite thick and it uses a little bit of rubber, you don't have to worry about creases being left into the suit. It really isn't noticeable. It's not like a Superman or Vision suit where those creases are going to be really visible, which is good. The elbows, this is of course where the lack or the hindrance on articulation plays one of the biggest parts in. As you can see, there is a double hinge joint in there, but it really doesn't move very far based on the heavy amount of rubber. As you can see, that's about as far as you can go. Twisting this armor piece, there does allow it to not be in the way, but as you can see, this is still about as far as it goes. So let me quickly now show you some of the restrictions in getting him to hold the blaster with two hands. Alright, so with the restrictions in the elbow joint because of the fabric over the joint, it is hard to get them to hold the gun with two hands, the rifle there. You can do it, like obviously here it is, but when you let go, it just they spring back into wherever they want to go, which is very annoying. And it wouldn't be a huge problem if there wasn't for this little stock at the bottom which can move, because sometimes when you get them in a position like this, there is pressure because the arms want to separate again, and therefore it can start to bend that stock if you have it in a position where it's not holding it very well. So it is extremely annoying trying to get them to hold the blaster rifle in two hands in a natural position. It's extremely hard, and it really just comes down to the fact that the the elbow joint does not bend far enough to be able to allow it to do it. So, you know, you can do it if you do fiddle with it for a long time and you get it in a nice position. Like, there you go, he's holding it in 2 hands, but there is that pressure that you can totally feel where he just wants to separate his arms because the joint is not, the rubber is pushing on the joint and not allowing it to bend this far. There are ways that you can improve this, but all of them have to do with customizing and things like that. So just straight out of the box, they do have a large amount of trouble holding the gun with 2 hands, even though on Sideshow's website and on all of the Hot Toys' official images of any of the troopers, they hold their guns really well. Of course, in person, that is not the case. And even using a lot of pressure and everything, it can still be extremely hard to get the arms to hold it, the gun with 2 hands. Moving down, the wrists have their hinge swivel, basically your basic, you know, Hot Toys articulation. The armor pieces on the wrists do hinder it a bit, but not too much, and you can manipulate it pretty well. If you need to turn the peg one way to get them to hinge up or down, or, you know, right to left or whatnot, you can take off this armor piece to actually move it specifically where you want it, and then just pop that armor back on. These remove and get on really easily, which is nice. He does have torso articulation, however, it is really hindered. You can barely see it in here, but there is a ball jointed upper torso, so it does take some force to actually get it to move, and when you do get it to move, it doesn't move very much at all, but there is still movement in there, and you know, it will make a difference, just it'll be a very slight difference. Now, these thighs, unfortunately, are extremely hindered, and there's no rubber in the thighs or anything. It's really because of the suit that's underneath that does create the hindrance. But as you can see, this is like almost as far forward as you can get, which is definitely a shame without like seriously stressing the suit. So that is definitely a shame. They can go out about this far, you know, really hindered in general. The knees are, you know, just as hindered as the elbows, basically. That's about as best of a bend as you're going to get. And then the ankles are quite nice. They are actually ball jointed, and they can pivot really well too, which is cool. The feet in general are kind of like a rubberish, which makes them stick onto their base really well. So you don't have to worry about them sliding off the base or anything, which is nice. But it is kind of weird because the rest of them is completely plastic and everything, and then these feet are kind of a rubberish kind of cloth almost. It's a kind of a strange feel to them. So compared to the rest of the figure, it feels like the feet don't fit in very well, but they look just as good. My other, just kind of, I would assume this is accurate, however it is kind of strange to me, is that it feels like the seam in the joint here goes at an angle this way. So when his foot is straight like this is a straight foot, you know, it looks like it's off-centered because this looks like it's supposed to be the middle. However, this the seam here is way off from the middle of the knee pad, which is really weird. I don't think it really twists at all. Oh, I guess it does. You know what? I complain about things, and I don't even actually see if I'm complaining about the right thing. There we go. So I guess that this armor piece, just make sure it's flipped to the front, and don't be an idiot like me and assume that there's something wrong with the costume. So yeah, just want to mention that. So in general, articulation is decent. In some areas, like the shoulders, it actually surprised me with the level of articulation. However, in the elbows, thighs, and knees, it basically did what I expected and was extremely hindered, which is unfortunate. I was also expecting like no articulation in the torso, so to have just the really slight articulation is nice, although it's certainly nothing to cheer about. The head articulation is pretty decent too. I didn't expect that to be hindered at all, but it really does have a slightly more range of motion than I was even expecting, which is cool. In conclusion, I do enjoy these Stormtroopers. When I first got them, I got them with a bunch of other stuff. An entire wave of Marvel Legends showed up, my Loot Crate came and my Hot Toys Thanos came, so because of that, I had a lot of other stuff, and I kind of put these guys on the back burner. Didn't really pay attention to them after I opened them, and it was only like a week later that I actually started to mess with them and found out that I really do enjoy them. They do have limited articulation, but it was something I was expecting. I would say that their limited articulation is really only a big factor when trying to get them to hold their weapons with two hands. Other than that, they're pretty well ranged. I mean, you can, as you can see, have them with the fists up in the air, which actually looks really cool when you're looking down at that pose. It looks actually wonderful, which is why I do display them like that, or at least I am at the moment. So I am really happy about that type of articulation. I've also done poses, basically getting ready for my riot control trooper, seeing how their range of motion will work with him, with his weapon, the baton, and it actually seems like I'm going to get some, good poses with that. I have to say, even my Stormtrooper kind of on the right there is basically in that original pose of the riot trooper when he, first extends the baton there. So I do think that you're going to get a really nice posability and poses with the riot control stormtrooper, just because his weapons don't need to be held with two hands, and based on the fact that they do have decent articulation in the shoulders, you can actually do some cool poses. So I'm even more excited for the riot control trooper at the moment too, because of these figures. And even if you can't get the ideal pose that you're looking for, these guys just are excellent as far as the way they look. They just look so nice, so pristine, and just completely, the proportion wise, they're perfect, which is really nice. That's the one thing that I haven't seen from a Stormtrooper figure from Hasbro or the Disney Store or just anything like that, is to have a perfectly proportioned Stormtrooper, which is, kind of hard to get, because sometimes their head is kind of low, it's kind of chunky, they have, chunky proportions in the torso and the thighs mainly, and things like that. And these Hot Toys figures really do hit that look perfectly, I have to say. So I am really happy with how these guys turned out look-wise. Articulation-wise, they are hindered, but I do consider them to be really nice figures in general, and I do actually like them better than I thought I was going to overall, which is really cool. I am even tempted to get some more. I haven't decided if I'm going to get a Snow Trooper or not. I may or I may not. The Flame Trooper, I think I've decided to skip, and the 2-pack that comes with the Stormtrooper Officer and just a regular Stormtrooper, I am considering that one. I would love to get a few more of these Stormtroopers, just because, they look wonderful in a display with like the First Order flags behind them and things like that, which I am considering putting together. So I would be really happy to get a wonderful just First Order display. So these guys are really nice look-wise. They look excellent. Love their bases. Come with a decent amount of accessories, although I think lacking a secondary blaster rifle. I think that's pretty necessary to the set, and unfortunately it doesn't provide. These figures, they retail, the regular one retails for $205, and then the Heavy Gunner, I believe, is $215. If you buy them in a 2-pack, I believe this cost $390, I think. So I am pretty happy that if you do buy them in a 2-pack, you do get a discount, which is good because you're basically buying two of the same thing. So I am happy that we do get a discount for buying the set together, which is cool. So I do really like these guys. If you're looking for super dynamic poses, I wouldn't recommend these. Get the Figure Arts, Hasbro or Metafix, get one of those. But if you're just looking for an excellent looking figure, this is definitely going to be the best Stormtrooper on the market, I would have to say. So there you go. That's my video review of the Hot Toys First Order Stormtroopers, the regular Trooper, as well as the Heavy Gunner. Thanks so much for watching.